See, the Tattvas are the great elements and they are known to all spiritual and mystical traditions in the world. Anybody who goes into meditation for a while instantly realizes that there are 5 fundamental vibrations that make up the universe. The classical term for them were elements. Unfortunately, in chemistry also we have elements, so people confuse them as if they are actual physical things, and earth is not really an element, earth is a mud and rock and everything consists earth, but the word is earth, water, fire, air, space, or as we call it in Sanskrit, the Prithvi, the Jala, the Agni, the Vayu and the Akasha. But they are not in any sense materials in that sense. They are the underlying energy vibration of the material. If energy vibrates in a certain way, then it constitutes a solid or a liquid or fire. So this confusion about what the great elements mean, which is why I don't like to use the word great elements, because that just muddles the waters up very badly and it starts confusing it with chemistry, which is why the word is tattva. This whatever is the tattva. The tattvas are vibrational states. The tattvas are vibrational possibilities. And all mystical traditions, all those who have a tradition of both meditation as well as magic work, all those who have a tradition of meditation and occult work rather than magic work, they instantly know you're working with one of these energies, you're working with one of these tattvas. Now, according to yoga, the fundamental foundational tattva of the universe is Akasha. The foundation of the universe is consciousness. Consciousness is the universe. When it starts manifesting, it manifests in tattva terms. When the universe comes into being, when the universe comes into, rather from being to becoming, when the universe starts. So the fundamental tattva, the fundamental vibration from which all other vibrations, and then the very important concept is rupa, when all forms, all aspects of manifestation, anything that has a dimension, anything that has a limitation, anything that has a form is called a rupa. Now, even energy beings have dimensions and they have limitations. And what are called devtas or gods are energy beings. They are beings that vibrate differently from us. They are vital beings. And there are lower level vital beings also, but they are all rupas, which is why India is the only country in the world where we sit down and we create new forms of God to worship. We actually create a particular vibration, and sometimes somebody sees, I like this form and I like this form and I like this form, but they are all male gods. I want all of this in a feminine vibration, so they mix it all together and they create a Devi. So that is Pratyangira. There is Narasimha, there is Kali, there is Shiva, and they make. So I was very surprised when somebody told me there are 3 Pratyangira temples in London. I said, you're out of your mind. That is something, deep, hard level occult people only worship Pratyangira. And he said, no, there are 3 temples there. So it's obviously whoever is the vital being currently occupying the post known as Pratyangira wants more worship. This is the other thing that we know, that the more engagement and worship there is, that energy being becomes stronger. But we'll come to that later. Let's come to Akasha. So Akasha is the foundational vibration of energy, which is almost indistinguishable from pure consciousness. But it is not actually pure consciousness. It is the first vibration of consciousness that we can experience or we can access. The thing is, in yoga, they know if you can work at the Akasha level, you are enlightened instantly. Which is why in the tarot they say that the cards of the major arcana, which are the Akasha, which are the space or the spiritual cards, are the more important cards, because those are really the cards that vibrate at a higher dimension. They are the cards that vibrate at higher intensity. That is the only reason why they are regarded as more important, because they are Akasha cards. They are very fundamentally the Akasha cards. So that first experience of consciousness, so that first experience of the pervasive consciousness, which is the bedrock and the foundation and the manifestation of the universe, is called Akasha, which is, our experience of vastness, our experience of immensity, our experience of something outside our limitation is usually the night sky. When we look into the night sky, we see so many stars, and people knew those are also suns, so people knew that there would be a. So that first experience, that first engagement with consciousness in a form that we can still sort of relate to, or we can still experience, that is called, because the pure consciousness, of course, immediately everything dissolves. So that is why I said that the Nataraja, the Chidambaram Nataraja, is about as close to having a form within Akasha. If Akasha could have a form, then that is it. And South Indian yogis, of course, they created these temples where you can go and work with a particular tattva at a particular time. The Chidambaram is the space, and the one at Tiruvanmala is the fire lingam, and then so there are these five, and it's a pilgrimage that you're supposed to make in life. You're supposed to go once in life and clear out your whatever your issues are with the basic tattva, water. I just did it in December, so it is quite an extraordinary, and because they created the kshetrams, like I explained, the kshetram is a zone of possibility, it's a vibration, and the temple is a scaffolding for that kshetram. In Chidambaram, very clearly it is the Akasha kshetra. You can actually feel the vibration change from the outside world, somewhere in between the dwara, the main gate. You can just stand there and you can, okay, this is where the world vibrates and this is where Akasha vibrates. It's just so extraordinary. So after Akasha, we come to the Vayu, we come to the air, which is the mind, which is the mental construct, which is the intellectual construct, we can explain many things mentally. Science today, especially subatomic physics, nobody's ever seen a subatomic particle. We deduce their presence, we deduce their impact. It's all mental. There is no instrument fine enough to actually, in a material sense, capture a subatomic particle. So that subatomic particle is basically an energy unit. It's not a material unit. So that in that sense of, there are many things which we can understand that they are true, that they have a reality, but they perhaps don't have a material reality, and they impact us, they influence us. So that is the vibration of Vayu. That is the vibration that is called the great elemental of air, and that is the mind. The mind. So there are many. It's, for instance, conceptual reality is always truer than perceptual reality. A very simple thing is, we perceive that we are on a flat stationary earth and the sun goes around us, but now we know that is not true. We are actually on a sphere which is spinning like crazy in the solar system, and because of the moon, the whole earth doesn't tip over, because the moon keeps us spinning in a certain amount of gravity. The moon is very vital for life. Otherwise, the earth could spin. It would still go around the sun, but it would spin out of control. Because of the moon's gravity, it spins in a particular manner around its axis. It doesn't wobble on the axis. So all these things are not perceptual. All these things are not things that we can see and deduce.
But aren't both equally real?
Which one?
When you said one is more real.
It is a perception. To that extent, your experience is real, but it is not the truth. We are not on a flat earth. The earth is not stationary. That is not a truth. You are experiencing that, your experience is true.
Ah.
But in absolute terms, you're not on a flat earth and you're not on a still earth. And the sun doesn't go around the earth goes on the sun. So that is what Maya meant when they kept saying about Maya. The word unfortunately got translated as illusion, but that is not what Maya means. Maya means that what you see, what you perceive is not the truth. There is something else going on. Why is it so difficult for you? Conceptual reality is always the truth. Especially
I'm
since
saying both are true, because when you live in
it's
the
not
world,
true.
when you live in the world, your perceptual
It
reality
is true
what-
for your
what's-
functionality. It is a
Exactly.
hypothesis. It is an assumption. It is a very good hypothesis that the sun is a god driving his chariot across the sky. That's a hypothesis. It explains all the observed phenomena. But it's not the truth. No, it's not a theory. Unfortunately, the word theory has been mistaken. People think theory means hypothesis. People actually use the word theory when they mean hypothesis. So yes, you experience it in a certain way, but your experience is false. For instance, we always can see our nose. Our nose is always visible in our vision, but the brain, because it's such a distraction, the brain blocks it out. Yeah, yeah. The nose is always present in the vision, unless it's been chopped off or something. So again and again we come down to this thing of that what we experience or what we see is not really, and that is where that Vayu vibration, that elemental aware is where we get that. That's not actually how the things are going on. The mind, of course, is very famous. There are blind spots in the vision. It's very fascinating the kind of work that they do nowadays in perception. And also this whole business of false memory. It's very easy to induce a false memory, and the person genuinely believes that they experienced something, they went through something, and they have all the neurological responses as if they actually experienced it. But no, it was just clever questioning elicited that. So that is that vibration of the Vayu. That is that function when you're still functioning in the Vayu. Where you must understand in the first two dimensions, in Akasha and Vayu, forms are still not there. The materiality has still not happened. Air is formless. You cannot grasp air. There are no rupas in Akasha. There are no rupas in Vayu. You cannot grasp the air. Though you can feel it. When the wind blows, very physically you can feel the impact. When you don't have air around you, very physically you can feel the consequence. But still it is formless. Nevertheless, it is formless. When we come to Agni, when we come to fire, that is when the forms, the rupams start manifesting. Agni is the first form. The flames also, they take on very distinctive and unique shapes, and most of the devtas, most of the gods, most of the things that we worship were first seen in the flames. The first rupas were always seen in the flames. So Agni is the fire elemental. Agni is the place where things start coming into tangible manifestation, physical reality. They are not mental realities, they are physical realities. Agni is that vibration, which is why in the culture, from the time we know, from the Indus Valley, we are finding these fire pits for yagna, because that working with the fire is something very important in the culture, because that is the vibration that makes things happen. That is the vibration which condenses, because in the understanding, Akasha becomes thick, Akasha condenses and it becomes Vayu, it becomes mind. Vayu becomes thicker and that becomes Agni, that becomes form. So each time it is a level of thickening, it is a level of descent of consciousness, it is a level of rigidity of consciousness. So the working with fire becomes very important, because they discovered something very significant about physical flame. They discovered that the minute you have a flame going, the Akasha in the atmosphere becomes much stronger. And to make things manifest is much easier. Which is why the best stories are always told around the campfire. Because the receptivity is much greater. Manifestation is much greater, which is why the light a lamp first thing in the morning, light a lamp in the evening, because that is a transition time. And so that the business of lighting the lamp is always an aspect of increasing the akasha, of increasing the receptivity is greater. And if you can work in akasha, everything becomes easy. It's just that we don't vibrate like that. So these are the external physical aids that we can use to get akasha going. But fire is certainly in that sense tremendously important. Fire helps the Akasha Tattva to ramp up, it scales it up. And which is why that from the beginning, the one constant ritual that has been going on is the Agnihotra, the Homa, the fire, the offering into the fire. And for practical reasons, we want to heal, we want to bring this change about, we want these blessings, we want these benefits. So they understood that. This is the point where it becomes tangible. It goes up and it goes down, which is why Agni was one of the most important gods in the Vedas, because Agni was clearly understood to be the link between higher consciousness and lower consciousness. Agni Hayavadana, Agni was the communicator, Agni was the messenger between the humans and the gods. Agni was the friend of the humans and the gods. He was the link between the human consciousness and the divine consciousness. The fire tattva is the link between that. And you can step down and up the way it is communicated, and it's very clear. You see, the sun is the literal source of life, and the sun is just a ball of fire. So at that level, they very much understood that the fire is the source of life. Everything else is subsidiary to the energy that we get from the sun. The sun is the literal source of life, and the sun is fire.
Is that the meaning of the word Hayavadana?
Yeah. The friend, the mutual link, the connection.
So lighting a diya is also Agni.
Lighting a diya is very important. No matter what, I get up in the morning, first thing I do is light a flame. First thing. And also in the evening, of course. But in the morning I do it. So there is a well established and well founded reason. They discovered that working with fire, and all the yoga sadhanas are basically working with your internal fire. Or even something like the tarot is basically, if you know how to do it, that we are working with the tattvas here, and then the quality of the work you can do and the quality of the spiritual processes that you can go ramp up immediately. Instead of getting fixated on meanings, if you could just understand that you're working with the tattvas, you're working with the elements, it would really dramatically help. So that creative aspect, and creative in the very literal sense of bringing into creation, that is Agni. Not just about painting beautifully and dancing and singing beautifully, which of course that is also Agni. So we say about people, they are on fire whenever they are doing exceptionally well in whatever they are doing. So we understand that at that moment the Agni Tattva is, or people are very attractive, we say that they are smoldering. They look like fire is permanently. So that in the language, whether we know or we don't know, in the language it is there, that recognition of that Agni Tattva. So you want to become very dominant, you want to become very famous, you have to work with Agni. That Agni is what makes you. Film stars, the TV, movies, they're all, the electronic media, they're all Agni driven, they're all fire driven. So communication, the tongue is supposed to be aspect of Agni, because it communicates. That is very big fire in the tongue. So whether you want to step down the consciousness, whether you want to pull down the energy and use it to manifest something practical and useful in your life, whether you want to raise your vibration so that you become more magnetic or anything, no matter what, Agni is the Vayamiri, Agni is the center. Which is why in that Arnachalam temple they will very proudly tell you, this is the center. They will always say, this is the center. This is the heart. And the three lingams, the Agni lingam, the Vayu lingam, and the Akasha lingam, they are different. The first two lingams were established by feminine yogis, the earth and the water. The fire lingam, I have never seen anything like that. It is about 6 feet high, it is granite, and they just have two small oil lamps, so the heat cannot be coming off the oil lamps. It just radiates heat in a manner I have never ever in my life experienced. It is fearsome. And the Vayu lingam, the one in Sri Kalahasti, they don't physically touch it. The story is that if you physically touch the lingam, you are certain to die within a month. So whatever they do without physically ever touching the lingam. And Chidambaram, of course, they don't even have the lingam anymore. They've moved the lingam to the side and they've got the Nataraja. Yeah, but you saw the original lingam there. You saw it over there. So there is certainly something in those higher vibrations. There is certainly something pretty fierce in those higher vibrations, if you know what is going on. And the Sri Kalahasti lingam, I can tell you, that really scared me. The mental, the Vayu lingam, because I've never seen anything so grim. It was just sheer power. It was just like a complete no-nonsense sort of. When the Agni condenses further, when the energy, the vibration thickens further and comes down, then we come into water, we come into Jala, we come into Apa, as it is known in Sanskrit actually. That is emotion. So a large part of creativity and all that, the fire does depend on your emotional vibration. The fire does depend on your emotional sensitivity. A large part of your healing ability depends on your Jala Tattva. It depends if you're a healer, if you're a therapist. You better be very, very, very well versed with your emotional side, with your water side, your fluid side, your flexible side, your creative side. So the zones are not clear cut. You see, they sort of merge into each other. We cannot say that, yes, of course, once you're deep into Agni, there is no doubt you're deep into Agni. And once you're deep into the Jala, there is no doubt you're deep. But you cannot really say this is the point where it stops. They merge sort of imperceptibly. The vibrations are, it's not that clear. The vibrations keep. Of course, there are shortcuts in yoga. You can jump directly to Akasha, but not recommended. Most people can't hold the body together. Because if you jump directly into the formless, you drop the body, you die. So it's not recommended. That's why most of the yogic sadhanas, very few of them actually, very few and rare ones make you come to the Vayu level. Most of them function either at the water level or at the fire level. Nowadays, of course, the most popular is the body level, the earth level, because that is what people like. If you have exciting bodily experiences, then so many processes are working purely from the body, the earth level, the Prithvi, the densest condensation of vibration, the densest condensation of Tattva. See, it is all one Tattva. You must not think that they are 5 different Tattvas. It is all one Tattva. It is just the density or the vibrational density or the condensation is different at each time. There are actually not 5 Tattvas. There is only one Tattva. And that is the hard things, the actual physical tangible things. The body, objects, those are all earth. and that is where the. But basically, the body. In human terms, it is the body. It is the experience of the body, and most of the world remains here. Most of the world remains in this denses because this is where the money is. This is where the comfort is. This is where all the. This is the pentacles vibration in the tarot. The water vibration is the cups. The fire vibration is the wands. The swords vibration is the air, and the major arcana is the akasha, is the space, is the ether. Now, nobody is pure akasha. It is not possible because you will instantly finish dead. Nobody can live at pure Vayu level also, even though many people try. Many people try to live at a purely intellectual kind of state of being or a purely mental state of being, and they deny the body and they deny their emotions, they deny everything, they refuse to have any kind of strong emotion. They try to just be in one state of. So that approach has been tried a lot. The whole Vedantic approach to a large extent is that, where you just deny any turmoil, you just keep looking for equanimity, you just keep looking for one stasis, and it's all mind. The arguments are entirely from the mind, the arguments are entirely from conceptual, which is not wrong because conceptual reality is always better than perceptual reality. But it's possible only for very exceptional people. It's only possible for people who many lifetimes have been like that. It's like what Jiddu Krishnamurti and all used to say is not wrong, but the only people who can comprehend them are people who are born enlightened. So to the extent of saying that work is not necessary, they are actually preventing a lot of people from evolving because the people stop trying. Work is not necessary, and that understanding of yes, actually it is all one vibration, one consciousness, that is possible only for very rare people. Any one given time in the world, there might be 20 like that. And you are disrupting millions of people by telling them. And it is one of the reasons why this non-dualism is so popular, because everybody sees, we don't have to work. Sadhana is not needed, effort is not needed. And also, if you understand your pain body and you dissociate from it, many people think that they have become enlightened because now they are no longer in the grip and the turmoil. But dissociation from your emotions is not the same as expanding into Akasha. So many people actually come to that state where nothing from the external world impacts them anymore because they have completely. And the mistake is made that they have become enlightened, and many people start following them also because it's very attractive to see a person who's dissociated from human weakness and who seems to be constantly in an equanimous and a happy condition, but not necessarily that the vibration has hit Akasha. This is the danger that yogis know. You can get stuck at every level. So what happens to them is they actually come to a Vayu level and they stay there. But it's a mental trick. It's not really that. So the yogis know when somebody is enlightened because the vibration is unmistakable. When somebody is enlightened, the vibration that comes out of them is unmistakable. When somebody has gone into this interesting plateau, that also they know. The person, either because of their karma or because of their self-inquiry and self-reflection. A lot of people stop the self-inquiry, they stop the Atma-Vichara because no longer there is trouble from emotion, no longer there is trouble from external stimuli. Since you have learned to deal with that, I'm fine. What is there to further inquire? And it's one of the oldest traps. It is one of the oldest traps of the universe, of nature rather, of Prakriti. Prakriti doesn't want you vibrating in Akasha immediately because then how will its job get done? So, So that very often people see that they learn to dissociate from the impact of their emotions, they learn to dissociate from the impact of the body, and they are, I'm not talking about somebody like Ramana Maharshi, who was genuine something else, but many people, they have this somewhat enlightenment as
That's also the definition of psychopath.
yeah. Actually, a psychopath and an enlightened person have many similarities. There are, the checklist is quite similar. The checklist of symptoms, the checklist of behaviors, which is why in the yogic tradition many psychopaths have been converted very easily. Angulimala, for instance, is the most famous example in the culture. He was a bandit in Buddha's time, who it's there in my Sacred Indian Tarot, Eight of Pentacles, and it was very easy to convert him because all the basic mindsets and skills are already in place. Even Valmiki, the author of the Ramayana, was supposed to be a bandit. There some people dispute that, but it's very easy because they are already free from all social limitations, mental limitations, emotional limitations. They don't mind doing ghastly things. And the yogi will do anything if it gives him half an inch advantage in growth. Especially the Aghora types, they will do anything. They simply do not care how much it horrifies or offends other people, so long as they grow. So yes, in that sense, psychopaths. Psychopaths are people who need to be put into yoga. It's one of the commonest stories in India that somebody starts off as a bandit, somebody starts off as a hellraiser, and runs up against an enlightened master, and that person just flips the switch, and the person changes. So of course, a lot of people are going to get very offended. He's saying yogis are like psychopaths. I'm like, yes, in surface similarity, not at the deepest level, but in surface similarity. There is a very clear. There is a, somebody like Sherlock Holmes, for instance. He's born to do yoga. He's just perfectly born to do yoga, but because that is not his culture, he becomes what he becomes. In the latest incarnation in Sherlock, he actually says, I'm a high-functioning sociopath, not a psychopath. Though the medical literature does not distinguish between sociopathy and psychopathy anymore, it's like all the same. But somebody like Friedrich Nietzsche, for instance, it is one of the great tragedies that he never met Swami Vivekananda. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone insane and he wouldn't have gone down the tube. Nikolai Tesla did meet Vivekananda, and so he knew that my skills and my abilities and the way I am is actually just a yogic state of being. So he was saved from that. Otherwise, everybody was saying that you're mad. So it was just one of the big. Paul Klee met Vivekananda, but Nietzsche never met, unfortunately. It's just one of the big losses. Vivekananda was in Europe at the time. It was one of the big losses. Anyways, karma is karma. So most of the time we have to start from Earth Tattva because that is where we are embodied. If you are embodied, which means in the body. If you are embodied, that means the predominant thing is Earth. The Tantra uses all. The Tantra is different in that it will not take any one approach. The Bhakti approach is water, emotion. Yeah, the ritual puja approach is fire. Those who work with murtis, those who do a lot of yagnas, those who do havans, those who work with yantras, those who do chanting, they are all fire people. Of course, again, it's not like the Bhakti people don't work with chants and don't work with murtis. So again, the boundaries are not very. Those who like to do the Hatha Yoga and all that, those who like to go on long pilgrimages, walk all the time, those people are all earth people. But Tantra is like, where can I get an advantage? so, especially the Aghoris, they will do any weirdness, that is why they got their reputation. Aghora actually means not terrible, it means the kind and benevolent aspect of Shiva. But they will do any weirdness to get to that point. And today the word Aghora has become like an abuse, and they are actually planning to pass a law which makes it illegal to be an Aghori. Of course, it will be contested in court, but still, that is the cultural horror. So the Aghoris would do weird things like, anyways, they would live in the crematorium and they would eat the human flesh and carry skulls and act strange and everything. But that is a tantric approach. The tantrics will do anything. They are tired of being embodied. They are tired of being limited. Whatever can shake loose and come to a finer tattva, whatever can shake my vibration and help me get to Akasha, I will do. No matter how socially bizarre and socially, condemned that practice is. So they have always been an embarrassment in the culture, but they have always been they have always been the true source of creativity also. They have always been the true source of spiritual creativity in the culture. The Aghoras, the Tantrics. And anyways, all the puja rituals, all the temples, everything these are all tantric texts. No? The texts of how to create an image of God, how to create a murti, how to create a temple, what pujas to do, yantras, those are all tantric. No? So people don't realize how deeply the Tantra has influenced the culture. They don't realize that. And Tantra is not limited to Hinduism. Even Jains have the tantric approach, even Buddhists have the tantric approach, the Tibetans very clearly. But Tantra basically means instrument. Whatever is an instrument to shake your vibration into a higher dimension is Tantra. You can do any damn thing. There is only one rule, there are no rules. You have to become free, that is the one rule. You have to achieve mukti. Get to mukti, mukti means what? Mukti means now you are basically in Akasha vibration. You are in that, which is why when I saw that whole cycle of the life leading to enlightenment in the major arcana, I was very alright. Of course, Akasha Tattva, it has to be in the etheric or the space. So the point of all sadhanas, the point of all work is to go back to that foundational tattva, to go back to Akasha, to enhance the quantity and the quality of Akasha in you, in your life, in your environment, which is what consecrated space means. If you would go to South India, the old small towns even today, you'll see something very interesting. Every 200-300 yards, you will find one small little temple. There is usually 2-3 big temples, and always you will find this small little shrine. What you notice if you get a map or you do a full circuit is that the whole town has been consecrated. They have created a vibratory grid around the entire town. And these small temples are sort of points where the power can pass. So they have actually tried in India to make an entire town with Akashic vibration. And most towns used to be like that. Most houses used to be consecrated. Towns used to be consecrated. Today, of course, it's becoming more and more difficult especially because of the electric wires, they really interfere with the vibration. Big time. But the idea was very clear at one time. You could live, your entire population of a town or a village could live in a sacred space. They could live in a consecrated space. They could live in a space where Akasha would vibrate. So whether you're in the house or you step out of it, you're always in that Akashic energy. It's quite extraordinary. Or then they would do these whenever they do this 1 week havan, 2 week yagna, 1 month yagna, that's what they're doing. They're desperately trying to bring up the Akashic vibration. Now these things normally were not told. I don't see why they should be kept secret. Because even if people know, it's not like Akasha is going to descend on them. And if they know, then they can at least do what they're doing with consciousness. That we are trying to shake loose from our thick vibration, we are trying to come